and welcome back to my channel, Autism Therapized. The channel where we talk about everything high-functioning autism, everything from the questions you have on how to know if your child's autistic, to how to manage behaviors and everything in between. In today's video, I wanted to talk about letting my family know my boys were autistic and different tips and tricks you can offer up when you have to teach your family members how to deal with your children if they are autistic. Now, one thing I want to note is that for me, in my family, we do not have any history of autism that I'm aware of. So my boys being autistic was a first for the entire family. We didn't have any prior knowledge of dealing with an autistic diagnosis. Nobody else had ever really known anybody who'd been autistic. So this was really a learning curve for my entire family, not just my immediate family, but even my extended family. Another thing I'd like to note is just different cultural differences. In the Black community, at least from my experience, there's not a whole lot of autism discussion. So even amongst my friends, my Black friends and family, I don't know many people who have autistic kids, so it's not really a topic of conversation that comes up very often. So when I first even had to tell my family members that my boys were autistic, there was a lot of education about what even is autism. What does that look like? What do you mean your kid's autistic? And things like that nature. Because some of the things that my kids were doing that made them qualify for autism are things that my family members just saw as my kids being quote unquote bad or just not listening and following instructions. So it took a lot of educating on the part of us to teach them that, hey, some of these behaviors are truly beyond their control or truly due to their brains functioning differently than our brains function. It doesn't mean that we have to ignore the behaviors and let them act any kind of way. It just means we have to adjust expectations. We have to adjust the way we respond to them whenever they have certain types of behaviors. And so again, that was a huge adjustment on my family because this was something we never had to deal with prior. So, because I previously had the experience of having to educate my parents about autism, I'd like to offer up some tips and tricks on things you can do when you have to speak to your family to make that transition a little bit easier. Tip number one is to educate them about autism. A lot of times we take for granted that people know what autism is because we've taken the time to research, see what it is. We've seen it in our kids. We're reading everything about it, especially when we find out they're finally diagnosed. But a lot of times our family members have no clue. In my family, we have no, again, like I said, we have no family history of it, so this was something new to everybody. So by taking the time to explain the diagnosis to them, then they better understood why the kids acted the way they did, and some of the different quirks about the boys made a lot more sense to the family. Tip number two, allow your family to ask questions. Especially if they have no experience dealing with autism in the past, they might have a lot of questions of things. I know in our family, my parents had questions of, could the boys do the same thing that the other siblings could do? Were there certain activities that they should not be allowed to participate in? And just so many things. And by also giving them a chance to ask questions, it makes them more comfortable to ask things about autism and engage and learn different things. And let them know that no question's a silly question and that you really do want them to learn. And it also just helps the family feel more comfortable when they have to later manage the kids that are autistic. Tip number three, teach your family how to deal with and manage problem behaviors, and if possible, model it for them. Like I mentioned previously, in my family, there's a certain way that our family deals when kids don't listen, when they don't follow instructions. And so again, being autistic, the boys don't respond to the typical way that my parents or extended family would normally manage or correct them. So one thing that we did was we actually modeled for them how to deal when they dealt with problem behaviors. So say one of the boys was having a meltdown. Instead of them doing their typical, hey, what did I say? Do this. We were like, no, this is what you should do. When they do this, you need to get on their level. And we just went step by step through the different things that we were taught ourselves how to manage the autistic behavior. It did a couple of things. Number one, it showed them what it should look like because again, by being able to model it, they were able to see the way to walk it out. But number two, it also helped them to see that what we talked about was actually successful. So it further reaffirmed in their mind that, okay, this is a successful way to manage these things. Now, tip number four, lovingly correct family when needed. Key word there is lovingly. And this is because our family's used to doing certain things, and even though we've taught them ways that are best to manage problem behaviors in autistic kids, they naturally have a way that they do things and naturally have a way that they function. So there are going to be times when they just revert back to the way that they always handled things. When these things happen, let them handle it to a certain extent, but if you need to step in, do so respectfully, but also lovingly correct and show them the way that it should have been done. That way it does a couple things. Number one, the family member doesn't feel disrespected. They don't get upset with you that you jumped in and told them no. But number two, you're also able to help deflate the situation and better calm down your child, while also, again, allowing the other family member to see the best way to handle the autistic child during that situation. And tip number 5, continue to update and educate. As you learn more about your kids, as you learn more about ways to manage autistic behaviors, share these with your family, share these with the people around you that help care for your kids. You are the best source of knowledge, and you know your child better than anybody else. And again, family members, they want to be engaged. They still want to do things with all of your kids, not just the non-autistic ones. And they want the autistic kids to be able to participate and have fun at their houses. And so, but whenever you learn something new, whether it be how to manage a behavior, how to help where they have a food sensitivity or texture, how to help them get over something they don't want to do, share this with your family. This makes it easier so everybody can engage together, they can still have fun, and there's no difference in the kids, and they're able to have the same experience as their non-autistic siblings. I hope these tips have been helpful to you, and you've learned some new ways to kind of help educate your family and teach them about autism. If you've enjoyed these tips, please make sure to comment down below anything you've learned, and also please make sure to share this video with anybody you think might benefit. Also, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my video, as I put out videos once a week teaching about all things high-functioning autism. All right, make sure to come back next week as we continue to learn more about how to manage high-functioning autism. Bye.